Hi everyone. So today we're talking about Amber Tuccaro. I feel like everybody knows the story of Amber Tuccaro. She literally recorded what many believe is her killer's voice. Um, it was the person that she was at least known to be with. I'm not gonna play the recording in this video. But I will have the link down below so you can listen to the whole thing. If you hear any like dinging, it's my laptop. I'm also trying to export another video, so just so if you hear anything weird. Also, links for articles and everything I use for research will be down below, like always. And there will also be a link if you want to submit a case for a case. It's a case suggestion form. I don't know where I was going with that. But I want to go ahead and jump into this video. And yeah. So, Amber Alyssa Tuccaro um, is from the Mikisew Cree First Nation. She is an indigenous woman, in case you did not know. I will have her photos on the screen, not scream. She was a 21-year-old woman living in Alberta, Canada, and that is where she lived with her mother Tootsie and young son Jacob. Sorry, I'm trying to get things off the screen. On August 17th, 2010, Amber flew to Edmonton from Fort McMurray with her 14-month-old son, and a female friend for a weekend trip. Their plan was to spend the night outside the city to save money and then head into Edmonton the next day. On the day of their arrival, Amber decided that she wanted to go into the city that night. She left her son with her friend and decided to hitchhike there. When Amber failed to return the next day, her friend called her mother, who then contacted the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the RCMP, to report her missing. Tootsie told the media that the RCMP did not take Amber's disappearance seriously. The RCMP publicly stated that they thought she was alive and somewhere in the Edmonton area and told her that she was probably out partying and would eventually reappear. By the way, her mom's name is Vivian, and Vivian says the way the case was handled from the beginning is a joke. She says the police even told her, well, maybe she's out partying and she will call or whatever. And I was like, no, Amber doesn't leave her baby anywhere. And just so you know, her mother Vivian would not be interviewed for 4 months. Regardless of what you think about the situation, they should have been on interviews from the very beginning. This is a person who has a child and doesn't leave her baby anywhere. I've said this in videos before. Police should always listen to the family because I feel like the families know more than obviously the police do. And it's no surprise the police in general, but especially the RCMP, they don't take Indigenous cases seriously. Like, it's very obvious that they don't really care. And it's so sad because there is this woman telling you that there is something wrong. This is not my daughter. She would not leave her son. And there's like, oh, she's out partying. You should care. You should at least look into it. You should at least fucking interview the mother. Like, what the hell? And it's just absolutely despicable that it was not taken seriously. And briefly, we are going to go over the stats of missing Indigenous women, the crisis in Canada. There's a lot more to it than what I'm going to tell you. This is just very quickly. I will have links down below if you're interested in learning more about it. I feel like this is something that a lot of people should know what's going on because it really is an epidemic. Like, there's so many missing Indigenous women. It's fucking sick, but just so for the context, there is currently a human rights crisis in Canada where there is a disproportionately high percentage of missing and murdered women that are Indigenous. In Canada, Aboriginal women are 3% of the country's population, but 10% of its murder victims. The epicenter of that human rights crisis is the Highway 49, miles north of where Amber was last seen trying to hitch a ride. Highway 16 in Canada between Prince George and Prince Rupert, British Columbia, is called the Highway of Tears. You might have heard of it. This was in another video that we talked about. It's along this highway that many Indigenous women have been kidnapped and murdered. The reasons the crimes congregate around this highway are because so many Aboriginal women experience poverty, generational trauma, and domestic violence. Hitchhiking is common, and it's a common way for Indigenous people in Alberta to travel to cities for medical care or to see family members. And it's sad because this is how they get around, this is how they travel, and it's like they're being taken advantage of, they're being murdered, they're being kidnapped. They're not asking to be, and they're not the cases aren't being taken seriously when it happens. And so much is happening around this highway and happening to these people, and the RCMP just doesn't take it seriously. And the only reason why they wouldn't is just because they genuinely don't care. Like, there's no reason to not take it seriously. There's no way you can look at the stats and say, oh, there's nothing going on here. There is something going on here. You just don't care to look into it. And I feel like most people can agree about that. So on August 28th, 2010, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, or RCMP, said they had a sighting of Amber and closed the case. They claimed they had a sighting and closed the case and removed her from the National Missing Persons database. So it literally took, oh, we think we have a sighting, and they just completely removed her off of their database, closed the case. This is so grossly mishandled. I'm so fucking angry every time I hear about it. There was no known attempt to made to confirm that the sighting was even accurate. They didn't even care to make sure it was her. They just said, yep, it's her, probably, closed the fucking case, and moved on. Can you imagine how gross that is? A month later, Tootsie Tuccaro had Amber re-added to the list. Thank God for Tootsie, as she still had not been able to contact her daughter, who she had previously been in daily contact with. Again, the family knows more about the victims than the authorities do. This is someone who would not leave their child alone very long, would not abandon their child. This is someone who is in daily contact with their mother. I am the same way. If I stopped contacting my mother would react the same way. So, listen to the family. And they're just so uncaring about it. So uncaring. There's no reason for any of them, for any of the RCMP to act like that. Okay, that's... I'm gonna move on. Tootsie went to personally investigate the belongings Amber left at the hotel and discovered the RCMP had thrown them away. Because of course they did. Because of course they can't give them back to the mother. Because of course they can't investigate things properly. Because of course they just don't fucking care. I'm so mad for Tootsie. Oh my gosh. She is going to hell and back for her daughter, and the RCMP can't even meet her halfway. It's fucking sad. And this is a quote. So when they told me they took her off the missing persons list, my first question was, did you guys see her? And they said no. And I was like, how could you take her off after telling me time and time again that you have to see her and be 100% sure that's her, and yet you take her off? Which is a very valid question, because I just read to you that they thought they had a sighting of her. Then they said they never made an attempt to make sure it was accurate. Then they tell her, no, we didn't see her. So they're just, what are they doing? Just taking people off? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a little suspicious that they're just doing that. And it makes you wonder why they're doing it. And you could say, well, they just don't like Indigenous people. But what if the person who's doing it is one of their own? You know what I'm saying? And I know I'm just, like, coming at you with word vomit right now, but it's just like, this subject makes me very angry for Amber, for Tootsie, for all Indigenous women, because what the actual fuck? This is ridiculous. You should not have to go through all this and be met with dead ends just to make sure you can find your daughter. It's absolutely ridiculous. On August 28th, 2012, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police released an audio recording of a phone call between Amber and her brother. Amber's brother was incarcerated at the time in Canada, and in Canada, calls with incarcerated people are recorded. When Amber was picked up while hitchhiking, she likely became suspicious of the driver and called her brother, knowing it would be recorded. Her mother had previously advised her to pretend to be on the phone as a safety precaution while hitchhiking. The phone call was 17 minutes in total, but only 61 seconds were released. 3 witnesses came forward and said that they recognized the man's voice in Amber's last call. They said the man's name was Pat Carson, a well-known sex offender in Alberta. RCMP could not find a link between Pat and Tuccaro, and do not consider him a person of interest. It is unclear when RCMP was alerted to the existence of this phone call, and why they closed Amber's case so quickly, or why they waited 2 years to release the phone call and ask for help in identifying the male voice heard with Amber. Unfortunately, a few days after the phone call was released, Amber's body was found in a field by someone passing on horseback. Her body was located a 17-minute drive from her hotel. And it makes you wonder not only like what the entire phone call consisted of, like what did they talk about, and I've heard the phone call, And she keeps asking the person, like, where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we? And you can tell that she's definitely concerned. She wants an answer. She wants her brother to know. And it's so chilling that that is her last conversation recorded. And it does make you wonder why it took them so long uh, to release the phone call. Why they closed it so early. I do kind of still think that it's one of their own. It really makes you wonder why. They said they couldn't find a link between. They said they could not find a link between her and Pat, but it kind of makes you wonder, did they even actually look into it? Did they just say, oh no? Like, you're really questioning their work right now. Like, you haven't done shit up to this point, so what makes you think we're gonna believe you now, honestly? And it shouldn't have to take you finding her body for you to do anything to begin with. You know what I'm saying? And also, the fact that her body was located a 17-minute drive from her hotel, and the phone call was 17 minutes total, it makes you realize that she was probably attacked almost immediately after that phone call ended. Like, she probably put down that phone and her attacker just pounced. That is absolutely chilling. I My heart is like hurting for Tootsie and her loved ones because this is all just so much bullshit. The RCMP have a long history of neglect and abuse toward Canada's Aboriginal population. More than half of murders of Aboriginal women in Canada are unsolved. As recently as 2012, a woman reported that she was, quote, driven outside of town by police officers who raped her and threatened to kill her if she told anyone, end quote. In July 2019, the RCMP apologized to the Tuccaro family in a 120-page report from the Civilian Review and Complaints Commission of the RCMP found that the investigation into Amber's disappearance was deficient. There have been 4 bodies found in the area where Amber's body was found, leading people to suspect that she may have been the victim of a serial killer. All 4 victims were Indigenous women who were hitchhiking. And I said this in my previous video about Daisy, Karen, and Echo, that it seems like there is a serial killer that is attacking Indigenous women, even though their cases were in Washington in the United States, and this is in Canada. It definitely makes you feel like Indigenous women, which I feel like is actually probably true, are being attacked and targeted. Probably because the people that are doing it know that their cases aren't taken seriously and they probably will remain unsolved. Because there is absolutely no reason why more than half of these murders are still unsolved. And I know that a lot of cases do go unsolved, but it's just, the numbers are sickening. They should not be that high. There should definitely be more effort put into all of their cases, especially Amber's, because I I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't think she could have saved when she was hitchhiking if what happened to her was immediately after that phone call. But I feel like they could have found her sooner. Maybe they would have gotten leads. Maybe there would have been a quicker and better outcome to this. I'm so sad and mad for Tootsie. It's honestly aggravating. And I know I keep going back to Tootsie and Vivian. It's her mother. She goes by both. Uh, I'm just so astonished. Like, every time I listen to this case, the neglect is so gross. And yeah, they came out and said, yeah, it was deficient. This wasn't done right. That is like too little, too late, you know? Like, I'm so mad. Anyways, let's continue because I am almost done. So, Vivian is faced with her daughter, Amber's death, every minute of the day, and she goes on to say, I am 56 years old now, and raising a little boy that is so full of energy. He drives me crazy, but at the same time, he's my sanity. I mean, he is all that I have left of my baby, and just the way he looks at me sometimes, and the way he stands like his mommy, the way he says words, he says them the way Amber used to. Like, Amber had a witty attitude, and that's what Jacob has. And she was doing an interview and she was crying, and it's just absolutely heartbreaking. I'm about to cry myself. Because I cannot imagine how she must feel. Like, she still has Jacob, and just looking at his face every day, it's seeing Amber and knowing that, um, her case should have been so much differently. She should have had, there should have been a swift reaction. She should have had justice long before her body was found, and it shouldn't have taken what it did for them to even release a fucking phone call. Like, it should have been a lot more. The family just deserved a lot more. Amber deserves a lot more. And her case is still unsolved, obviously. As far as I know, there haven't been any updates. If there are in the future, I will of course update you guys. This is a case that I hold near and dear to my heart, just the chilling facts of it, and the family's heartbreak is just, it's heartbreaking. But if her family sees this, I just want to say that I am very sorry about Amber. You deserved so much better. She deserved so much better. And I am hoping that something will happen and there will be justice. Part of me does feel like this could easily be solved if they just put in the fucking effort, and I feel like a lot of people agree. Someone out there knows something, and if you do, please go forward with the information, because there is a family, there's a little boy, there is a mother that just wants answers, and they deserve that. But thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to Amber's story. Like I said, if you know anything, please go forward with it. Keep pushing to have her case solved. And again, I'm sorry to the family that this has happened to y'all. And the RCMP needs to get their fucking shit together. Again, thank you for listening to Amber's story, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.